Okay, so say we're going to graph 2 secant of x minus pi. So first thing I'm going to do is say, well, secant is related to my cosecant. My cosine. It's my 1 over cosine. So I'm going to graph this. I'm going to graph everything with the cosine, and then from there, I'll go ahead and draw in a secant. So I'm just going to replace my secant with cosine for right now. So if I do that, I had to remember how to graph cosine real quick. So I'm going to say, okay, my period, because there's nothing I can pull out of here. My period is just 2 pi, so it's going to go from 0 to 2 pi. So it's going to have my normal parts. My amplitude will be 2, because it has a 2 in front of it. And it has a shift, right, pi. Okay, so plus pi. We'll make that plus pi since we'll be adding pi to everything. So I'll graph regular cosine first. So let's see. All that changes is my amplitude. So instead of starting at 1, it's going to start at 2. Go through 0 at pi over 2. Hit negative 2 at pi. Go through 0 at 3 pi over 2. And go up to 2 at 2 pi. So this will be my regular cosine graph. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and my period's good, my amp is good. I'm going to shift it right pi. So when I shift it right pi, oh man, hold on. There we go, that's good. I'm just going to add pi to every single part of it. So if I add pi to 0, then I'm starting off at pi, and that's going to be up to 2. If I add pi to pi over 2, that's going to be 3 pi over 2. That's where it's going to get to 0. If I add pi to pi, that's 2 pi. That's where it's going to get my lowest at negative 2. If I add pi to 3 pi over 2, that's 5 pi over 2. That's going to get up to 0 again. And if I add pi to 2 pi, I get 3 pi. So that's where it would get up to the highest again. Again, to graph my secant, I'm going to go ahead and draw in, I guess I can graph my, cosine. There we go. If I graph my cosine, to graph my secant, I'm going to go ahead and draw in vertical asymptotes wherever I see it crosses 0. And again, we want it to cross 0 one more time. So we're going to draw it backwards. If this was 3 pi over 2, when it goes back down, this would be pi over 2. It crossed at 5 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, so it would cross again at pi over 2. Okay, so now I'm going to draw that in. I'm going to say here are my 3 vertical asymptotes, my 2 spans of vertical asymptotes. We've got a span right here and a span right here. So I'm going to draw it to come down and meet the vertical asymptote there. And I'm actually going to draw it to come up and meet the point there, but follow the vertical asymptote. So you're drawing it down to meet the point and follow the vertical asymptotes, and up to meet the point, follow the vertical asymptotes. So my graph of secant is just the blue parts of this. Okay.